Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Triple Double Nation. Today we'll be covering the top 10 best ball handlers in NBA history. Let's get into the video. Dribbling the ball is the most fundamental skill in basketball. Before a player ever shoots a ball, he will have dribbled it. It is the one skill that, if not possessed, would not allow you to even play the sport. But the question remains, what makes a great dribbler? Is it ball security and the ability to control the ball without turning it over? Is it the ability to change speeds, accelerate, and then stop on a dime, all while maintaining control of the ball? Maybe it's a flashy move like a killer crossover, spin move, or a behind-the-back dribble. The truth is there is no definitive answer. The standouts tend to be players who have these elements, while having mastered or pioneered a move their peers could not match. One of the harder elements when determining the greatest of all time is trying to figure out how skills will translate over different eras. How would modern players fare in the 50s and 60s when palming and traveling rules were much more strictly enforced? How would players from the 50s compete with the modern day athleticism of NBA players? It's an impossible debate, and it makes any list highly subjective. What was considered flash in the golden era are moves that high school kids could pull off today. But not paying respect to the history of the game would be a grave injustice. These pioneers paved the way for the ones after them, and they all possess world-class athleticism. How each player would have fared in different eras is anyone's guess. What we do know is that these players were a sight to behold with the ball in their hands. This list will try to do the impossible and break down the top 10 ball handlers. Number 10, Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford is one of the most electrifying players in the NBA right now. Crawford is the career leader in 4-point plays, almost doubling second place Reggie Miller. Crawford's dribbling skills are a major reason for this. When watching defenders on Crawford, you would swear they were on skates. Crawford is one of the best hesitation moves to freeze defenders. What makes Crawford so deadly off the hesitation is that he can hesitate and then cross over to blow by or by pulling up from the jumper. It is that pull-up jumper that has developed Crawford into an all-around player. Crawford is just incredible with the ball in his hand, and you can hear the crowd hold their breath with anticipation every time he touches the ball. Number 9, Earl the Pearl Monroe. Growing up in the streets of Philadelphia, Monroe was called Black Jesus, and he later became known simply as the Pearl. Monroe was drafted into the NBA by the Baltimore Bullets Monroe and would electrify crowds for 13 seasons. Monroe did not have great speed or hops, but he was able to drive the paint and hit a variety of off-balance shots. His claim to fame was the dribble spin move, as many consider him the first to use and perfect this move. Observers claim that watching Monroe was like listening to jazz due to his improvisation skills. Monroe himself claimed that many times he was unsure himself what he was about to do. As one New York reporter claimed, he has the greatest combination of basketball ability and showmanship. Monroe is a shining example of a player whose skill was before his time. Number 8, Kyrie Irving. One of the few things Pepsi Max did right was the Uncle Drew commercials, where Kyrie Irving is dressed up as an old man schooling young bucks on the street courts. In these commercials, you truly get to appreciate the skills Irving possesses. Irving has a remarkable change of direction, speed, and one of the best in and out of dribble moves ever seen. Irving claims that most of the moves he makes are simple and that their key is having a counter for every move he makes. His offseason trainer compared him to the great Barry Sanders, and that is a fitting description. Like Sanders, Irving seems to be able to see an open space before it is even developed, setting up the defender in order to cut back into it. Irving is just scratching the surface of his potential as a dribbler, and when all is said and done, he could be considered the greatest. His potential is that immense. Number 7, Chris Paul. There are moments when it seems Chris Paul can get to any spot on the court that he pleases. Paul is not the most spectacular dribbler, but he is always in control. He has a very low dribble, which adds to his control. He is a master at changing speeds and has a trunk full of moves that he can string together. What really stands out for Paul is his turnover rate. Point guards handle the ball often and are among the leaders in turnovers, but not Chris Paul. Chris Paul, over the past 4 years, has not been in the top 40 turnovers per game. In his career, he has only been in the top 40 once. For a player that handles the ball as often as Paul does, that is an unheard of stat, and it tells you how much control he has over his dribble. Number 6, Bob Cousy. One of the great nicknames in basketball history is the Houdini of Hardwood. And what a fitting nickname it was for Bob Cousy. He was flash before it ever existed and brought things to basketball courts that were never seen before him. Once benched in college because his coach did not approve of his entreating style of play, Cousy would become an NBA favorite for it. He completely changed the way fans looked at basketball and was a true pioneer with his dribbling and ball handling skills. His skills would never be as awe-inspiring as some of today's greats, but in his era those moves were jaw-dropping. Moves such as behind-the-back dribble, spin moves, and the no-look pass were all things first seen from Bob Cousy. If it were not for Cousy, a list like this would not have existed. Number 5, Jason Williams. Jason Williams took the league by storm in 1999 as a member of the Sacramento Kings. The Kings were a young, brash, up-tempo team, and Williams led the way with his array of dribbling and passing skills. It was a sight to behold watching Williams run a fast break. Williams' signature dribble was a behind-the-back move that he used to drive by defenders. Williams had tremendous vision and could throw a pass from any angle. He could throw a pass without looking, do it behind his back, or even off his elbow. He was the type of player that brought the crowd to their feet, but caused coaches to pull out their hair. Williams loved to do the dramatic and would tend to make plays more spectacular than they had to be, much to the delight of the crowd, but this led to many ill-advised turnovers that ultimately led to his exit from the NBA. Williams has been last spotted on tour in China and in US Pro-Am leagues, still dazzling crowds with his remarkable skills. Number 4, Isaiah Thomas. In a time where Magic, Bird, and Jordan all reigned, there might not have been a harder player to defend than Isaiah Thomas. He could break you down with a multitude of moves, but all of them were done at blinding speed. There were times Isaiah would be moving so fast he would break his own ankles and take a spill, but amazingly he was able to also maintain the dribble even when on the ground. Thomas had a dribble that was very low to the ground, add in that he was only a shade over 6 foot, and it made defending him off the dribble extremely hard for larger defenders. Thomas was such a feisty player, and he played as if he was 10 feet tall. It was his once-in-a-generation dribbling skills that allowed him to navigate the court and become the dominant force he was. Number 3, Allen Iverson. When your first big crossover comes against Michael Jordan, you know there is greatness ahead of you, and that was the case for Allen Iverson. He changed how the crossover was done. His crossover was much higher than anyone else's, and the motion back to the other hand was much more exaggerated. The purists will claim that Iverson was carrying the ball, and he did get called on it as the move became more effective. But one of the reasons the move was so deadly was that Iverson sold the initial move with a large step before locking the leg and driving it back the other way. Number 2, Tim Hardaway. The killer crossover. The UTEP two-step, call it whatever you want, but the bottom line was it was the fastest crossover in NBA history. Tim Hardaway started in Golden State as part of a Run TMC before moving on to Miami. The one thing that followed him throughout was his lethal crossover. Hardaway added a wrinkle to the standard crossover by bringing it back between his legs before crossing the defender over. It is a move that many have since duplicated. The one thing the imitators have had a difficult time matching is the sheer speed with which Hardaway pulled off the crossover. He was literally passing the blink of an eye. He could do it from a dead standstill or at full speed coming up the court. Number 1, Pistol Pete Maravich. Pistol Pete Maravich was not the first player to do a behind-the-back dribble or make a no-look pass, but it was the way he brought all those elements together with flair that made him special. He never did anything conventional. For him, everything was a show. Maravich once said, "If I have a choice whether to do the show or throw a straight pass, and we're going to get the basket either way, I'm going to do the show." He defined creativity and showed what spectacular things could be done while dribbling the ball. Your eyes never left Maravich, as you would always wonder what would come next. He combined all this flair while still being a great scorer. What Maravich did in the 70s changed the game forever, and when you can be that type of pioneer, you deserve the top spot. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Catch you later. Goodbye.